So since Franklin Roosevelt and the New Deal, the 100-day mark has been the traditional point at which we review the early accomplishments of a new administration. What are the clean energy related accomplishments from the Biden administration's first 100 days that you're particularly proud of?
Well, let me just say, first of all, I have to say, since there's a partnership with the University of Michigan, hats off to them. Hello, go blue. So with respect to the first 100 days, I'm biased, but I think everyone here can find big things to appreciate in what this administration has accomplished in the first 100 days, perhaps most notably with the American Rescue Plan, of course, with respect to COVID. It may not be energy focused, but it's allowing us to get control of this pandemic so that we can get to work on the clean energy transition in earnest. And when it comes to the ambitious energy goals that the president has laid out, we really hit the ground running, and you can see that in the American Jobs Plan. So we've got work to do to get that through Congress, but I think we've effectively set the conversation maybe around the need to make these critical investments in our infrastructure, our people, our ability to compete, and of course, our ability to help lead on climate. Let me just tell you a few things that we've done at the Department of Energy alone that I'm really proud about. First of all, we've so far, so this is, one quarter in, we've pushed more than $1 billion in clean energy research and development out the door for funding opportunity requests to get to that next generation of technology, to make sure we've got deployment, et cetera. So we've set new goals all across technologies. We have set a goal to cut the price of solar by more than half again, by 60% by the end of the decade. We have set a goal to lower the cost of clean renewable hydrogen by 80% by the end of the decade. We've set a goal to slash battery cell prices in half yet again. So, you got to set a goal out there in order for your technology to meet it. Then we have joined an interagency effort to put 30 gigawatts of offshore wind capacity onto the grid by 2030. And that means adding a transmission backbone. And we're starting with the Atlantic coast. And then we are overseeing the White House Interagency Working Group on coal and power plant communities and economic revitalization, which that particular report, that program, it identifies nearly $38 billion in existing federal funding that energy communities, that fossil energy communities can access to help that transition toward clean energy for infrastructure, environmental revitalization projects. Through that working group, we also announced over $100 million for projects supporting job creation in energy communities just last week. So we've done a huge amount. We've established an Office of Energy Jobs to ensure that every one of these funding opportunities we make and every grant we give out maximizes the potential for job creation. You heard the president's address to Congress. It is all about job creation and the opportunity that this whole clean energy sector brings. And they're bringing major unions to the table to help navigate that work most effectively. I want to give a shout out to DOE's National Renewable Energy Lab because DOE has 17 national labs and they're all doing all of this great work. Well, thanks. They did a LA 100 study, which was in partnership with the city of Los Angeles. Mayor Eric Garcetti committed Los Angeles to reaching 100% clean electricity by 2035 in his last week's State of the City address. And the reason why that's important is because the tool that was created by the National Renewable Energy Laboratory is a tool that is available to other cities and states. They've got it figured out now with the right inputs. What's the output look like in order for a community, a city, to get to 100% clean electricity by 2035? And then the last thing I'll say, I know I'm going on too long, but I'm really proud of the fact that we have started an agency-wide equity assessment. We're really working to embed equity and civil rights and racial justice and equal opportunity in decision-making and policy across DOE. So, and we've started implementing a plan to improve our engagement and consultation with tribes and Native nations as well. So lots going on, but we have only about 940 days left in this administration if you take out weekends. So our hair is on fire to do a lot more.
I mean, talk about hitting the ground running. So there's a lot you have to cover if you're going to go back and look at the first 100 days. One thing to hone in on a little bit that you mentioned, the importance of jobs, the president's focus on jobs, and polling, including some of the polls that Third Way has done, has found that while most Americans support clean energy policies and they're excited about it and they understand the need to invest in clean energy to address climate change and everything else, we find that a lot of these people don't believe that their specific community will benefit or they will benefit. And as an elected official and now as secretary, you've really been known in part for your ability to understand what communities need and deliver results that resonate. How do we help skeptical Americans, including, as you alluded to, those with close ties to the fossil energy industries, feel like they and their communities will directly benefit from clean energy?
I so appreciate this. I mean, for those of you who are watching from Michigan, I was governor at a time when the auto industry was on its knees, right? When the industry and the suppliers to the auto industry went bankrupt, we were making a fossil fuel related product, which was the internal combustion engine. And people had the rug pulled out from under them through no fault of their own. And we went on to build Car 2.0, which is the electric vehicle, and the guts to that vehicle, which is the battery. And I completely understand why there is such anguish out there, because it's difficult to see yourself in a position that doesn't exist yet in your community, right? So we are laser focused on researching and developing, demonstrating, and deploying the kinds of clean energy technologies and sustainable building methods that are going to work everywhere. And there is an economic benefit for households in every pocket of the country, even beyond the prospect of new clean energy jobs, because this transition towards a cleaner, more sustainable future is going to mean that people save money. Actually, I mean, that's the most basic thing, right? How do you see this happen for you personally? Because it's in your pocketbook. I'm talking about, rooftop and community solar that result in lower energy bills for families, or weatherization and retrofits that increases homes' efficiency and decreases the amount you're going to pay on heating and air conditioning and electricity. And I'm talking about breaking down barriers, for example, to electric vehicle ownership, and not just expanding charging infrastructure, but that's an important piece of it, but also designing incentive programs so that the price tag goes down for at the point of purchase for an electric vehicle on the front end, so that it's comparable to the internal combustion engine, which, by the way, is all embedded in the American Jobs Plan. So it's also important to emphasize, I will say, in terms of how people feel it, the benefits, the health benefits of clean energy. Renewable power obviously means cleaner air and lower asthma rates, particularly in communities that are frontline communities in the shadows of power plants who are inhaling these small particulates that cause asthma. But I just want to say a word about the potential for jobs and economic growth, because in these energy communities, one thing I hope that stands out from this administration's first 100 days is our commitment to lifting those rural communities, those fossil communities, and industrial communities that have been challenged as well, that have been left behind. We are dead serious about doing everything humanly possible to make sure that this energy transition really does create opportunity for every community and lead to a more equitable economy. And so the jobs, after going through this incredibly painful process of losing thousands upon thousands of manufacturing jobs, the most I know in Michigan, the most transformative, effective solutions are the ones that are grounded in community. And this administration's approach is inclusive. We're going to give these folks a seat at the table and ask for their input about guiding decisions on place-based strategies. You can see that in our working group on coal and power plant communities that I mentioned. I was talking about rolling out $100 million in investments to retrain and rebuild jobs through carbon capture projects, through critical minerals extraction, through geothermal energy research, through environmental remediation, closing up those wells that are leaking methane, et cetera, community revitalization. And you can see in the American Jobs Plan, which proposes billions of dollars for these place-based strategies to bring every community along as we build this better economy. The American Jobs Plan calls, for example, for 25 demonstration projects in these distressed communities, 15 of them focused on decarbonized hydrogen, 10 on carbon capture retrofits in steel and cement and chemical plants, as well as power plants. These are all areas that people feel threatened they're going to lose their job and not have a place to go. So, we're going to continue to pioneer these industries of the future, but we're going to do it in these communities. And we want to maintain the jobs in the short and medium term with skills matched work. So, the capping oil wells that I just mentioned, reclaiming coal and hard rock mines, reducing methane leaks can all be done by people who are coal miners, for example. Energy workers will be able to jump right into those. Sheet metal workers and people who are doing construction trades or laying of pipes. There's pipes that are CO2 pipes that are necessary for carbon capture, use and sequestration and hydrogen. Bottom line is, through the American Jobs Plan, we're going to design clean energy transition in a way that gives every community skin in the game.
That's fantastic.
Sorry to go on so long, but there's so much here.
This is an example of both how much work there was that needed to get done when the Biden-Harris administration took office, and how much has already been started. And so we completely understand. One question, you talked about rural, and you also mentioned and emphasized the importance of union workers. Senator Manchin, amongst others, has talked about the importance of nuclear, which is often in rural areas is a heavily unionized workforce, to get to 100% clean on the grid. Can you talk a little bit more about what you see as the role for nuclear today, and also whether it has promise as an advanced technology?
Yeah, definitely it does. I mean, we are exploring every option that can get us to this clean energy future, 100% clean electricity by 2035, net zero carbon emissions by 2050. So nuclear is a critical part of that decarbonization equation. Right now, for example, nuclear energy in the U.S. provides more than 55% of the U.S.'s clean energy. It provides nearly 30% of the world's clean energy. It avoids more carbon emissions than all other clean energy sources combined in the United States. So you can't just throw it out. We don't want to see reliable, zero carbon, dispatchable electricity sources retire right when we need to accelerate clean energy deployment. And we address that in the American Jobs Plan. And we're also working with industry and our national labs to develop and demonstrate and deploy advanced nuclear technologies, including advanced microreactors, small modular reactors by the end of the decade. The way people are often afraid of nuclear, and I think a lot of that is when you don't have experience or you see some TV shows that, make you afraid, you don't realize that in the United States, we have an incredibly detailed and very hands-on regulatory environment that prevents the kinds of incidents that you see with Chernobyl. I mean, just not even relevant here because we've got a totally different system. So we are on track to demonstrate 2 advanced nuclear reactors in the next 5 to 7 years, and $15 billion in the American Jobs Plan in demonstration projects for climate research and development projects that include advanced nuclear. All of that will be a piece of it.
Well, I know, unfortunately, we only had you for a short period of time. You've an enormous amount of other things going on, I can only imagine. So thank you so much, Secretary, for joining us and joining the University of Michigan here today. We're thrilled to hear about everything that the department and the administration have engaged in already, and look forward to continuing the conversation with you and supporting you.
We've only just begun. Let's do this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Secretary.